welcome back to Entreprenews Podcast. My name is Frank Ranzino. I'm here with Michael Church. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And your name is?
I'm Nathan Church.
Thank you, Nathan, for coming on the show. So I wanted to have you on the show because obviously we met at Cars and Coffee, which was a charity event we did with Wigs and Witches for cancer patients. But when I met you, you were a financial advisor with Evolution Financial Group.
Yep, Evolution Financial Group out of Marlton, New Jersey. I've been there about 2 years now. Great company. Worked there helping people achieve financially what otherwise they wouldn't be able to do.
Absolutely. So how did you actually get into the financial advisory role?
Okay, so after working in the union for 25 years and realizing that a pension wasn't quite enough to have the type of retirement I would have liked to, I started to look into other options, talking to people at Cars and Coffees that, have these cars that most people dream about owning and trying to figure out how they went about getting those types of things. And I ran into a gentleman named Steve Smith, a senior advisor at the company I'm with now. And over the course of a few months, a few different conversations, he ended up saying if I'd like to learn a little bit more about what he does, he'd be able to teach me and show me what courses I needed to take and, where to source my education on it. And it just seemed right.
Just jumped right into it and took off.
Jumped right into it. I specially in specially designed life insurance policies.
Can you describe that a little more elaborately for the people that don't know what life insurance is? Because when they hear life insurance, they think one thing or they kind of get scared. The knowledge really isn't there to the public. So what exactly do you do for them?
So most people look at life insurance as a death benefit, and that's it. But it's really a living benefit. Anywhere from long-term care, which most people don't realize that at least through National Life, who is the provider we use, they offer something called an advanced benefit rider that all policies we sell have. And if you come up with a chronic critical illness, critical injury, you can actually get about 80% of your death benefit while you're alive. Help with bills, sail around the world, whatever you want to do with it. But while you're alive, you can take that. And that's tax-free money. Also, depending on your budget and what your goals are, everybody is different. You can get a policy to where you put so much money into it, it accrues equity. You can turn on an income stream, tax-free in the future. It's protected money from both bankruptcies, lawsuits, and at the end of the day, there is the death benefit after you utilize all the perks of it.
So it's very important, no matter what age you are, to obviously have life insurance, especially on children. Absolutely.
Now, children, it's a fraction of the price that you would think it would be for yourself at 35, 45 years old, and you can set up a policy for a child for not much money and change their future. Give them a pension, tax-free. You could set up college funding, which again, tax-free. You're not limited to what you use the money on. So if your kid decides not to go to college, he's not out the money, or there's no penalty like there is in a 529. Looking for financial aid, life insurance does not count as an asset. 529 does, and they hold it against you.
Okay.
So there's a big stigma about getting life insurance for children, but if you look at it in a different way,
sure,
in a bigger way, a better financial play,
sure,
it makes the most sense.
And aside from just your regular life insurance policies, it's actually used for when you pass, like let's say that you die, you can actually use it to where you can pass your money down to your next of kin in a tax-free environment.
It's generational wealth transfer. I mean, all the richest people in this country are the heaviest insured people because that's what they do. They'll receive insurance payouts. They use that tax-free money to fund their own insurance policies, to transfer wealth generation after generation.
And you can also, correct me if I'm wrong, you can also take loans out against your life insurance policy at very low interest rates, I believe.
No interest.
No interest.
It's actually your money that you are borrowing. You can pay it back if you don't pay it back. If you had a $500,000 policy and you pulled $100,000 out, death benefit would be $400,000. But that $100,000 was tax-free and interest-free.
Which it's amazing, especially since we believe tax rates will probably go up in the future.
Tax rates will always go up. I compare it loosely to a Roth IRA.
Okay.
You know, you're using taxed money to put in.
Okay.
So it's like buying a bag of seed. Would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the entire crop?
The seed.
Exactly.
Simple. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Roth does have a little bit of better interest rates than a life insurance would,
Sure.
but a life insurance has a death benefit.
Right, which is obviously huge. I mean, you never know what could happen at
Correct.
any given time. I mean,
Correct.
we hear about people that just drop dead or just randomly.
GoFundMe only goes so far, and rarely does it actually hit the target.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, we met at our Cars and Coffee event, and you had a very unique car. Can you tell me about that car?
So I drive as much as I can a 1969 Boss 429 Mustang.
Around once a week.
At least.
At least.
It's one of 859 made. Ford created this motor to race in NASCAR. To homogenize in NASCAR use, they needed to build 500 of them. They ended up building 859. It's one of about 300 known to exist.
And you only have 20,000 miles on yours.
20,000 miles. This car was garaged. It was actually parked and never driven again in 1971. So it was registered in 1970, bought as a leftover.
Okay.
It was parked in 1971, and you know, over the course of time, my father ended up buying this car in 1983. Somebody walked into his speed shop in Delran. It was called Pete Church Performance. Asked him if he'd like to buy the car. He was a Chevy guy, a Corvette guy. Really didn't have much interest in it, but he knew that it was a rare car and figured he'd flip it and make a couple bucks.
Yeah, why not?
Upon getting it home, found out it had a spun bearing. He was a race car guy, motor builder. Tears the motor down, rebuilds it. Life gets in the way. There's four of us boys.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, raising hell, everything else. So 1997, he got back on the project. Don Miller from Miller's Carcraft did all the paint work on it, full rotisserie, nut and bolt. But then the car never got assembled. It sat in my father's warehouse from 1997 to right about 2002 when we moved it to Berlin,
Sure.
to their garage there. It sat there until 2018, I believe, when I called Don Miller again, this time of Metro Racing in Brackney, Pennsylvania, 220 miles away from me.
Absolutely.
And we hooked up, and he said he was willing to give it a go and get it back together, you know, not only for me, but for my father. And I would go up there once or twice a month, drive each way just to try to give him some kind of hand or, you know, see the progress he made in it. A funny thing I always tell people is when my father bought this car, I was 7 years old. And when I restored it, my son was 7 years old. And,
It's funny how that timeline works out.
yeah, I got the chills saying that right now. But yeah, I was 41 years old when I got the car on the road, and I put about 5,500 miles on it since then. And I jokingly tell my son, when he's 40, he can have it, you know.
You ready to take driving it? Ready to start learning how to drive it?
I'm not sure.
It's a fast car, right?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say
it
it's
can-
real fast, right?
For how old it is, it can move. It can really move.
Absolutely. That's all that matters, right? It's just restoring a piece of history with your father. It's very, very important to have that bond, especially over something so classic
Yeah,
and
it's-
iconic.
Classic, rare. Some parts on it truly are irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of people give me grief about driving it because most people never would. Most people will never see one, let alone one that gets driven as much as I drive it. But to me, it's priceless in a sense to where it'll never be for sale.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just one thing my father always told me. It's a piece of history. You can't replace it.
I agree. It's a shame because they will never ever make cars like that ever again. I mean, I say it all the time. I'm a huge GTO guy, Charger guy.
Sure.
And to see how cars used to be versus today, and I'm not saying the cars today aren't cool. They are in their own way. But when you have a piece of history that looks like it just rode off the showroom floor in pristine condition, it leaves you speechless when you say it. I was shocked when you pulled up in it. And I'm looking and I'm going, Is that what I think it is? And I had to call. I ran right over. I said, park it right there. I didn't even want to get close enough to the paint. I'm like looking at it like this. I'm like, this is insane. I've never seen one. I probably never will see one other than yours, just because it's such a unique, and the color is phenomenal.
It's Ford factory candy apple red.
Yeah, they will just never make anything like that ever again. Now, aside from the car, what would you say to someone that wants to get into your business? What advice could you give them?
So it is, you have to keep an open mind.
Okay.
You got to do a lot of reading.
Okay.
Sales background helps tremendously. Sure. But it's pretty much it. You have to have your heart in trying to convince people that you're not just selling them something.
Sure.
You're showing them what to do to have a better future.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say you're giving a better future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
I'm showing them how to provide it for themselves.
A lot of stuff that, like life insurance, mortgages, they don't teach that in school. And it's a shame, because you're being deprived of all the benefits of life if you know how to utilize those benefits with the correct people. I actually ran into a situation back in the day where I was put into a policy that was not what they said it was. I had to have one of my financial advisors fix everything for me, and I'm lucky that we caught it early enough on. And that's why it's very, very important to work with someone that's established like yourself, that's truly looking out for your client, and you're not worried about the money. Because anytime you do business with someone and you're truly helping them out in life, business will continue to keep flowing in.
Absolutely.
It's not about being a cheesy salesman or anything like that. You really want to help people out. Now, Nathan, I understand you're in school. What do you want to be when you grow up?
So I want to be more of an engineer. I want to be more creative. I don't like being told to do this unless it's literal instructions to help me move on, so I can create my own future, create things to help other people. And I honestly think space is really cool. Every 5-year-old's dream.
To go to space.
Yeah.
You could be the next Elon Musk.
I could be, or I could be his assistant.
He was just at NASA.
Absolutely.
I actually was. Kennedy Space Center.
Did you love it?
Oh, it was amazing.
So when you get into the engineering role, what do you want to focus more on, like space? That's what your main focus is.
Yeah, I want to do stuff that's like rockets and like landers, satellites, all stuff like that. To be honest, I'm not ready to like say I want to go to space.
Okay.
I want to try to build what's going to space.
Elon Musk, if you're watching this, I hope you're listening, because this is your next entrepreneur right here. What do you like to do outside of engineering? What are some of your hobbies?
I do like to come out in the garage sometimes with my dad. He'll either be working on the Mustang or working on another car. It's a really fun experience to... About, I think 2 years ago, we had this giant 11-foot long car. It was really big. Painted the entire bottom, washed it, did a ton of things with it. It was a really, really fun time.
Good.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So you've been hands-on since you were young.
Oh, yeah.
Very mechanical.
Well, I wouldn't say since I was young. I've been more hands-on in the past years. I've been in ACO.
Okay.
I was kind of hands-on when I was a little kid, but not as hands-on as now.
But you're ready to continue to keep building. Now, are you in like any science projects, fairs? Have you gotten that far yet? Or is that like a goal of yours?
I would like to do a science fair. That would sound fun. But I'm not. A lot of schools didn't do this, but I think it was my school and TR and ACO Elementary.
Okay.
We did. Our one teacher wanted us to learn the value of a dollar.
Sure. Which is very important.
It's very important. I definitely know the value of a dollar. My cousins don't, not really, but I tried to lead them in the right direction. But, back to the school thing, she wanted us to try to do the stock market, which is called the stock market game. It's the exact same as the real stock market. It's just fake money.
Sure. I've been there, done it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Amazing thing.
Brilliant that he's
11
doing
years
it.
old.
11 years old. Speaking like a true entrepreneur, by the way.
But we didn't really get that far into it when we started. We started in the fifth grade. I'm in sixth. And we started doing the whole thing where our science teacher was teaching us about what to do, kind of. We never got that far, but I've been told from last year that we're actually going to get really hands-on this year.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty excited about.
How old were you when you learned about the stock market?
Not too old. Too old. If I was his age, learning about the stock market. Yeah. If I was your age, learning about the stock market and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all these crazy future things that are coming out. I've already been able to retire. It's actually crazy. I know someone that back in 2010, when Bitcoin first came out, he said, Frankie, you should take $1,000 and invest it into this electronic money on the internet. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Yeah. And come to find out today, he's worth about $900 million.
How many people do you know that have a very similar story? And I'm guessing you didn't put $1,000 in, because neither did I. And I had a friend that was going through finance school. He was actually a state trooper, but going through finance school to have a second career after he retired. He was going to retire early. And he said, these kids are talking about this stuff, man. Throw $1,000 into it. And I'm like, that sounds like nonsense to me.
Right? And look at where it went.
And, you know.
It's crazy.
And even as down as it is right now, if you did it then, you'd still be through the roof.
Absolutely. I mean, I do think that the future of the monetary system would be all digital. I would think that, everything's on a ledger block. So you can track every single transaction, and it's actually amazing.
Definitely what they're fighting for.
I
don't.
agree.
I don't think that it's going to be as easy as they say, and I think personally, not to go down the rabbit holes, but they have full control over your money at that point.
That's correct, and that's why, in my opinion, cash will always be king. Same with gold. Gold will always hold its value,
without a doubt.
And I just think that life insurance as well will always hold its value.
So, National Life is the oldest insurance company in the country and has never defaulted on a policy.
It's insane. And it's crazy. You hear these stories about people, car accident, die. They don't have life insurance. And then all of a sudden it's like you're getting sued. You could lose your house. You could go into bankruptcy. But if you have a simple policy, you could solve all of these problems. And it's crazy because in the grand scheme of things, life insurance really isn't that much money. And if you're set up with someone like yourself who knows how to structure the deal,
sure,
you're going to protect yourself financially. Your money's going to grow. It's going to be tax-free. And you're setting up a future for yourself. A lot of people don't think about their retirement. They just think, I'm going to dump all my money in a 401k or I'm going to play with the stock market a little bit.
401k, you lose 33% of that. You know, you think you got so much money in there, you'll whack a big chunk off of that when you retire.
Yep.
People don't take that into consideration.
I actually had a 401k, was putting a bunch of money into it, and then they go, Frankie, you're putting way too much money into it. And then I started getting into this business, learning, sitting with guys like you, learning about finances, mortgage, real estate, stock market guys, and I'm going, all of a sudden the 401k doesn't seem so great. Not that it's a bad investment.
It's a good investment. I mean, you have to have, call them buckets of money.
Correct.
Different spots,
diversified.
different money. Yes.
I mean, the average person cannot get this knowledge because they go on the internet and there's so many different things. Like, one site might say this, another site might say, and it gets overwhelming. And that's why it's very important to meet someone like yourself who obviously knows, here's your money, here's your situation, let's start planning for your future. The biggest mistake I made, which I'm okay, because I'm still young, I didn't start preparing for retirement like I should have when I was his age.
Right, but you weren't guided that way.
Yeah, I was.
How many of us were? I meet with 45-year-olds all day long to go, I want to retire at 65. How do I start?
But you still get them there. They might have to put more money into it.
Yeah,
but
we can get you there. But what are you willing to give up? Get rid of that car payment. Whatever it's got to be.
I had a guy back in the day tell me, he goes, he was a financial advisor, his mentor, he was teaching him about financial advising, and this guy had like a Porsche at the time. I think it was like $800 a month. Mm-hmm. And the guy goes, if you would stop making that payment and put it into a 401k, life insurance, this is the number after 30 years. He went and sold his Porsche the next day.
That's it.
And he started dumb. And that guy retired by the age of 35 with like an insane amount of money. And I laugh because you have all these shiny things that are presented to you. But what you offer is tucked under the rug.
I tell people constantly, just because you can go get something doesn't mean you can afford it.
Absolutely. It's one of them things, man. You just have to be educated. How can someone contact you to learn more about their options? What is the best email or social media they can reach out?
You can find me on Facebook, Michael Church. Email mchurch@evolutionfg.com. My phone number, 856-673-8726. Call or text. Will always return every message.
That's important. Communication's everything. And
always.
I mean, we just want to help as many people as we possibly can. We like to highlight people like you.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for obviously coming back out to Entreprenews. We'll see you next week. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, brother.
Really nice time.